Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters, or Mikaela Peters as they call me in Finland. Yeah, I was not totally into wanting to monetize the child, so we just kind of have the child like slightly here, incognito. But well, I'm also not monetized on this channel yet, so whatever. Ugh, it is so hot in my house. I wish I was back in the hospital. But yeah, this is going to basically be the overview of how my birth went in Finland. Yay. I'm sitting back because it's kind of uncomfortable to sit at this point because it's apparently how that goes for like 6 weeks after you give birth. Sucks. But yeah, and then, with the baby, I was like, having a baby and trying to figure out what all the different cries are. It's a little bit hard. It's kind of like doing math. Like, it's not impossible, well, at least for me. But it's a little bit hard. But yeah, so I just picked the baby up so that we have like less, crying noises and stuff. Ugh, I don't like this belly button situation. All right, anyway, so I'm going to talk about like how great my experience was giving birth in Finland. Today, the midwife debriefed me, kind of. I don't know if that's really the best way of putting it. And was like, how would you rate your birth here? On a scale of 1 to 10, I was like, 10 out of 10. Excellent. Like, really. I was like, how would I rate my pain also? 10 out of 10. I actually said that afterwards. But yeah, so, I was in the hospital for 5 days. I had to get induced. That sucked. I really did not want that to happen, but I kind of had no choice because what starts to happen is if the baby didn't come out yet and there's low amniotic fluid, it can put the baby in distress, which apparently I supposedly had. And what was the other problem? The placenta starts to get old, so it starts to like not really work the way it's supposed to, and then that can also like create issues for the baby. So yes. Anyway, the hardest part about this was just that I was not really well rested. This wasn't really like what I was expecting to happen in terms of giving birth. I really thought that I was going to be sleeping and I was going to wake up in the middle of the night and it was probably still going to be light out because it's Finland and in summertime. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to have contractions and I'm going to like clean the house and I'm going to go to the hospital and it's going to be chill and it's just going to be normal. Well, the problem was that never happened, so at some point they had to induce me. The one issue I had with this is they do it at 41 weeks and 5 days, and my due date in Finland was 4 days earlier than my due date in the US, and they were not rather happy with me trying to convince them that I still had a bonus 4 days, but whatever. Even a bonus 2 days would have been nice. I kind of want my baby to be born on the 25th. She's born on the 24th. Whatever, I'll get over it. Doesn't really matter. Just happy it's over with because it was honestly... childbirth is rough. I really have no other words for that. But, yeah, so I had to go in on a Wednesday morning. I didn't sleep that well the night before because I was kind of scared of getting induced. And then I couldn't eat until like 7 p.m. because they thought that the problem was if they were going to induce me and it wasn't going to go well, then I was going to have to get a C-section, which is why they don't want you eating. So they didn't let me eat that day, but they had 5 babies born that Wednesday. So, yes, Wednesday earlier this week. And they had a lot going on, so, like, I was just lower priority because, like, induction is not something that, like, needs to happen. It's just something that kind of, like, should happen at some point, but it's not, like, a day to, like, it's not, like, super time sensitive, like, like, as would be more pertinent active births currently happening. Okay, so instead they induced me the next morning at, like, 10-ish. And that was rough because also they told me that they were going to induce me at like 6 or 7 a.m. So I already woke up at like 4 a.m. and then started freaking out. So I slept like 5 hours or something stupid like that, like 4 or 5 hours. And then I took a shower and I was like, okay. And I'm just like waiting and I can't fall back to sleep because I'm like spazzing out. So I had a friend show up to sort of like distract me during this process of induction. At first it was kind of okay. I don't know, honestly, I'm not like a big medical person, so all this stuff was kind of gross. But in general, I like really just love the bedside manner of like the Finnish healthcare system. So like I still had a very nice experience with them, and like really I'm like very appreciative. Like I loved all my nurses and the doctors and the midwives and all that fun stuff. So well, before they induced me, they broke my water, which I knew was going, that was so disgusting. Ugh. It's just so, like, wet and hot and, okay, I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, so, but my mom told me that when her water broke, me and my brother both, like, we each came out really quickly after that. So I was like, okay, can we just break the water and not induce me with they call it oxytocin here, but, like, in the US we call it Pitocin, but it mimics oxytocin. So they did that, and then the one thing I'm gonna say that like I super appreciate about Finnish healthcare is that like they do listen to your concerns, because honestly in the US it's like they listen to them, but like, oh, there's a lot more like power play games involved where it's like, oh, well, I'm a doctor and I think this, so therefore your opinion doesn't matter. Because they gave me like a half hour of the oxytocin, pitocin, whatever you want to call it, and then they came back and they were wanting to turn it up. And I was like, can you just like not do that? Can you just like leave it where it's at? And they were like, okay, because I was like, because I think like this is working. And then they come back another half hour later, and I'm like, can you just turn this stuff off? And they're like, okay. So, like, if I had, like, speedboated it and, like, turned it up, I think my labor would have been, like, 10 times more terrible than it already was. Because I guess the thing was I wanted it to, like, occur somewhat naturally, right? And so, like, the idea of induction was a little bit, like, scary / disappointing for me, because I really just wanted my body to do what it was supposed to do. I wanted, like, a little bit of intervention. Although, then there comes the point in which you're giving up, and then you're like, I want whatever drugs you can give me. And so, you know, the whole thing was, I think I was already like 3 centimeters dilated the day before. So that was a weird thing, is I was already dilated. I just wasn't having contractions like at all. Like pretty much the entire time I was pregnant. I didn't have Braxton Hicks or anything. I just like did not have contractions. So, yeah, we used this Pitocin stuff, and then at some point towards the end, they were getting really bad. Then I went into this bathtub, and then in the middle of the bathtub, I started having a crisis. And this is when, after I got out of the bathtub, I was already 8 centimeters dilated. In the bathtub, I had, like, the breakdown. It was like, just give me the epidural. But then in the middle of this, I was like, isn't the epidural going to reduce the fetal heart rate, which is going to increase the odds that I'm going to have a C-section, which I don't want? And they're like, theoretically, yeah. But the good / bad part was, by the time I came out of that tub experience for approximately 1 hour, and, you know, at first I was, like, on my back floating, like, when the contractions were not happening, and then I was, like, bending over when they were happening, and, like, TBH screaming quite a bit, which you're not supposed to do, but any knowledge I had about how I was actually supposed to behave during childbirth seemed to just go out the window during this actual process. And then by the end, I was like flipping around in the tub like a fish. And then I got out, and then I was like, you know what it feels like? It feels like you just drank like 6 shots of tequila in 5 minutes and they all hit you at once, but like in a different way, but like that's the feeling. And so you're just like, you just feel like you got like hit by a bus or something. It feels so bad. And then I was at this point where I'm like, I can't handle it anymore, and I'm like, give me the epidural. And I felt really like kind of ashamed, because, you know, natural birth is kind of like a big deal in my family and stuff, and I was doing so much like trying to prep for having a natural birth. And so like I said, the wonderful and terrible thing about all of this was that once I went back and they measured me, they're like, you're way too dilated, we can't give you an epidural. And I was like, I want the epidural. I was so angry, and it was really funny. I mean, like, retrospectively, it's funny, but, like, because I was acting like a child, like, and the thing that the midwife said after is it brings out, like, such a primal instinct in you. Like, I literally felt so bad. Like, I felt like I was just being, like, a 2-year-old brat. Like, which, I mean, like, whatever, you're in a lot of pain, you don't even know how you're gonna act. But, like, apparently some people are, like, pretty quiet and not freaking out. I was just, like, freaking out. I was, like, screaming. I was cursing. I was, like... I felt like I was like possessed by a demon. I felt like I was like a psychopath. But anyway, they all handled it well. They're like, I'm sure they've seen this before. Yeah. So the other thing was I really wanted like a water birth if I wasn't going to have any issues, because to be a candidate for water birth, you can't get an epidural and you have to have no complications. But when I debriefed with the midwife today before I left, the thing that she ended up telling me was that because the fetal heart rate like was fluctuating quite a bit, they actually wouldn't have let me do a water birth anyway. And there's not enough time to fill up the tub, because they need to put the tub in the room. Like, it kind of like, I feel like it all happened way too quickly to be able to have it go exactly the way I want. And then it just like, I got so tired, it was like, then I gave up. To me, it was like running an 800-meter race, because I was always really bad at those, because I couldn't quite figure out how to pace myself. Like, they were too long to run them like a 400-meter race, but then they were too short to run them like a mile or a 5K race. So yeah, I think that's why I was like a little bit disappointed with the induction thing, because it just feels like it made the experience worse than it needed to be. But I don't know, they had to kick this poor child out of her 5-star hotel, as the one doctor said, because, you know, they've been like feeding on their like off of you for so long, and like they're warm and they're cozy in there, and then they have to go out into the real world and figure out how to feed, which, by the way, they do not like that. They really do not like that. Maybe eventually she's gonna like that, but right now, totally not. Yeah, so pretty much that was like the really bad part. Was the last hour and 15 of pushing, and again doing things I'm not supposed to do, laying on my back and birthing that way. That's not with gravity. You're supposed to, like, you know, be on all fours or be squatting or be doing this or be doing that. I tried sitting, and then the fetal heart rate dropped because I guess I didn't like that, and then she didn't like that, and then, you know, it was just like, yeah. And then, you know, so I was using a TENS machine for pain management. I think maybe they gave me some painkillers. I think they did, but I'm not really sure how that helped. Somebody tried applying pressure on me, and my one friend said that, like, knocked me out for a little bit. So, like, I was either sleeping or, like, completely out of it between contractions. So I guess that's good. Yeah. It's just bad. It's like the moment you know the contractions coming on, I feel like is the absolute worst part. I don't know. Anything related to the contractions is the worst part. Ugh. And then, you know, I was just saying all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, the funniest part was when I was like, can you, like, tie my tubes after this? Because I never want to experience this again. This is terrible. Why does anybody do this? And then the midwife is like, look, I have multiple children, and, like, you're going to, like, forget the pain when the baby actually comes out. Like, you're going to be happy. And I'm like, I could not think past the pain. Like, that was the problem, was, like, it was like running a race and not knowing where the finish line was, which, I mean, makes sense about, like, why childbirth is hard, because you don't know how long it's going to take. And as soon as I had to, like, start pushing at that point, I'm like, how long is this going to take? 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours? And they're like, okay, it won't take 6 hours. It literally took, like, an hour and 15 minutes. Not terrible, but it was, like, the worst hour and 15 minutes of my entire life. Yeah, so they were like, yay, you're going to get a natural birth like you wanted. And I was like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want it. I don't want it. And then I was also using the nitrous oxide. But I, like, didn't really want people touching me. I kind of knew that was going to happen anyway, but that's, like, another pain management technique. And then at the end, I was, like, so emotionally defeated that I was just like, can we just, like, I was like, I didn't really want a C-section, but I wanted anything but a C-section. So, like, everything I'd ever read, I was like, do you have forceps? Can you use forceps? And they're like, we don't even have those here. And I was like, which forceps, like, TBH, are a little bit dangerous. Like, especially if you don't know how to use them. They're like tongs that pull the baby out. Anyway, so then, but I was like, what else do you have? I'm like, do you have the vacuum? Can you vacuum the baby out? Because, like, it just felt like I could not push more. I was so tired. I had such bad sleep the 2 days before. I was, like, feeling so anxious about this whole thing. It did not go how I expected or planned or wanted, which, you know, my one aunt told me, you may as well take your birth plan and, like, throw it out the window, because you're probably not gonna use it. And, like, that's correct. They did give me, like, a little birth plan thing, or, like, write down your feelings around childbirth, or who's going to be there, and, like, how you want it to go, blah blah. Didn't matter. We didn't even talk about it. Just, it went the way it went. And yeah, so at the very end, like, oh, they were using some, like, local anesthesia numbing stuff. This Ring of Fire thing, to be honest, probably because I was numbed, like, did not it sounds weird to say it did not feel as terrible as I expected, but, like, honestly, the contractions themselves were just so terrible that, like, nothing compared to how bad the contractions felt. But I think that's also because my contractions were, like, literally on steroids because I had been induced. So, like, I think that may have been part of it. Like, there was no, like, ramp up period. Like I said, it was, like, 6 shots of tequila contractions, and, like, they just, like, were, like, psh. It was so bad. And so then I just got to a point where I was morally defeated. One thing I thought was, like, kind of cool, maybe because I got, like, a little bit aggressive with this, but, like, was really helpful. They gave me a towel to pull on every time I had a contraction. They were, like, pulling resistance against it. They tried doing this with a bar, but the bar was making me feel claustrophobic, so, like, I didn't want that there. I, like, tried to get up or something. I don't know. I wasn't liking that. But the towel I was liking. And then, yeah, I mean, and then at the end I got super desperate. I'm like, what else can you do? So then they had to, like, episiotomy it. Those are disgusting too. So they had to cut me, and then, like, did a little bit of vacuum, but the midwife debrief today was like, I mean, it was, like, literally barely anything with the vacuum. But the vacuum is kind of sad, because then the baby has, like, this weird little thing on its head, like right here where the vacuum was, and it's, like, sort of, like, I don't know, it's a bump, but it will go away because, their heads are like designed like to reform after birth essentially. Yeah, but then I feel like the other weird part is like, I had this whole expectation that like once the baby came out, I was gonna cry and like it was gonna be like the most happiest moment of my life and it was gonna be like butterflies, unicorns, and rainbows. But instead, I was just kind of like freaked out. Like, I mean, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. It was like super cool. But I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because they put the baby like right on your chest. And it's like weird. I don't know. But the very, very funny part, oh no, she's having PTSD. Oh no, don't cry. The very, very funny part about it was like I was screaming a lot. I was not supposed to. They were telling me not to. I could not listen. Like anything anybody said to me, I just looked at them and was like give them a death stare. Like I didn't even know what was going on around me, but I kept talking. That was the other thing that was weird. Like I know I kept saying random crap, and I don't even remember half of what it was. Besides, afterwards, my friends were telling me it was like being really drunk. Like I don't know. Like it was such a weird experience. And so I was like making a lot of groaning noises and like I was like, ugh. And so when the baby came out, she like looks at me and then for some reason she like made a noise like that, and that was like honestly probably the funniest thing that happened, aside from me asking to be sterilized and then being like, no, you're too young, we're not doing that, and we don't even do that here anyway. I wonder if they do that. Anyway, that sounds like more surgery and disgusting, bloody stuff that I really don't want to think about. But yeah, I mean, I got pretty desperate at the end, and like, I probably just needed that like oomph of intervention. But honestly, I just felt like the staff was really cool. They were supportive. They listened to my concerns and needs. They handled me even though I was acting like a psychopath. They weren't annoyed. They were just like doing their job. My midwife was like a homie. Her name was Satu. But like, because they write the name on your like little certificate thing. And like my one friend was saying, like she had blood all over her and she wasn't even wiping it off. She just like kept going. Like she was like really like with me and coaching me the whole time, even though I know that I like didn't really know what was going on. And I'm really happy I did not hire a doula because like I had like a stream of like 4 friends who kind of, as I was explaining it, did like shift work, let's say. And one of them was literally only there for the last 15 minutes, but and then she got to cut the baby's cord. So cute. I was like, they're like, do you want to do it? And I'm like, ew, no. I was like, she likes medical stuff, let her do it. So that was good. I had somebody for that. And then, yeah, no, but it was good. Like, I had one friend with the TENS machine, another, like, they were just all being supportive, and it was actually, okay. There was actually, like, a debrief today with the midwife where, she was like, your friends were really supportive and like, how do you feel like you did? And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, you should be proud of yourself or something. And I started crying and then she hugged me. I don't know why I started crying. Like, I guess it is like kind of emotional thinking about the whole experience. Yeah, I mean, it is cool, like, the moment the baby comes out and you're like, you've been waiting for this moment for, like, so long, and it's, like, crazy that, like, the idea of this thing is, like, actually now a real person who you get to, like, hang out with for the rest of your life, yay. As I say, assuming you're just not a terrible parent, which I'm gonna try not to be, so, yeah, but, like, in general, like, look, I had been going to, like, healthcare appointments both in the U.S. and in Finland, and, like, I was just really blown away with the level of care I was experiencing in Finland, like, the level of, like, care and concern, and, like I said, bedside manner that I was having in Finland that I just did not feel like I was having in the U.S., and I'm not saying, like, U.S. doctors are bad, but, like, or it's just that I enjoyed my experience here way more, because I just felt like they were much more patient and, like, really cared about you as a patient, more than just like, this being very like transactional business like, which unfortunately is just like how most things are in the US. I feel like even friendships to some extent, sadly, not all the time, but there's just more of a tendency for that. So that's the whole thing, is I think I just really like, it went like 10 out of 10 because, even though my birth plan was not my birth plan, the plan did not fulfill the plan. Either way, I feel like it was just like a really great experience with, I loved all the care I received. I loved getting to stay in the hospital for 3 days and they fed me. And, no, but like that was really helpful too, because the whole thing is, and they don't do this in the US. So like, this is why, again, I'm like so impressed with all of this. And it was funny because before I left the US, there was one person I work with, like, so like I work at a restaurant when I'm in the US, and it's like shift work. I just like pick them up. And there was one person who, she works at a hospital there, and she was like, yeah, like, I think it'd be much better to give birth in Finland because they have so much more support there. And, like, really, they, like, totally do. And not even just with, like, the birth itself, but, like, all the different services they have. Especially for me, I'm, like, an immigrant single parent with no family here. So, like, they have social services and whatnot, as I think I've mentioned already. But, not even getting to that point yet. Because, like, right now, things are pretty chill. Like, the only hard part so far is, like, the breastfeeding thing, which they actually, like, really give you a lot of instructions with how to do that while you're in the hospital. And so you can literally just, like, push a button and then they'll, like, have somebody come and, like, try to help you with it. And so, like, I've gotten some tips and tricks from there. And also, if I'm still having issues, I can go back to the hospital, work with a lactation consultant, something like that. Other... I don't know, this dreaming thing, what she's doing. Okay. Other things that happen are, baby care. This is really interesting. So they're like, here's how you wash the baby's face and the baby's neck, and, like, give them a little sponge bath kind of thing. Here's how you give the baby a bath. Crazy, because in the US they say not to give the baby a bath until the umbilical cord falls off. They don't do that here. So that's very different. What are the other things? Just, like, changing a diaper, like, obvious stuff, but like I said, I feel like the breastfeeding aspect was really, like, the most important. And then also, if your baby is up in the middle of the night, which obviously does happen, they will, like, if I'm like, hey, I'm hungry, like, they'll bring you food. I mean, that's probably pretty standard. You're kind of, like, trapped there in the hospital. No, but, like, they were just very, like, again, attentive to my needs, and, like, sometimes they just come in there to check on you. No, it was great. Like, I even enjoy, like, I'm gonna be honest, I did not enjoy the birth, but, like, I think it went as well as it could have, and, like, I'm very pleased with my experience, and I'm, like, super grateful that, like, it went exactly the way, like, not that the birth went the way I wanted to, but, like, it went as well as it could have in a place I really wanted to give birth. So, like, that was, like, very special and meaningful for me, but, like, honestly, it was. And then, like, again, I've been, like, very, like, impressed and, like, blown away with, like, the way the healthcare is here. Like, I feel cared for, which is kind of the point of health care. So, it was honestly pretty awesome. And so, and then they had this little cute thing where it's, like, you, like, write some stuff on a board and then, like, take a picture with the baby, and it's like, oh, the baby was born here, which, like, I did that today finally when I put her in some clothes that were, like, because this one is actually, like, my outfit from, like, somebody gave to me, whereas the ones there, they were, like, unisex, and so I kept dressing her in that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was, like, look, childbirth is, like, I'm not gonna, like, sugarcoat it. It's, like, kind of terrible. And like I've said, it's, like, it's really cool that we try to be like, oh, it's so great and it's amazing and powerful. And, like, it is, but, like, it's also, like, the most excruciating pain you could ever experience in your entire life. Like, I was trying to imagine what would be worse, and I was like, maybe, like, getting shot. And my friend's like, no, because that's, like, localized pain, whereas the contraction is, like, radiating throughout your entire body. And I'm like, oh, man, you're right. Maybe getting, like, burned alive. Okay, that's a little bit graphic, sorry. No, but, like, I was literally trying to imagine, like, what could be worse. It was bad. Like, but that's the process. And then you get beautiful baby out of it, which is cool. So, yeah, I'm, like, pretty happy. But in general, like, again, the process was, like, great. Like, I'm so happy. Like, and so it was funny because at the end, the pediatrician was like, thank you for coming here to give birth. We don't have so many Americans coming here. And I was like, no, thank you. Like, so, yeah. And then now the next phase is, like, naming her, and which that's a whole other thing I talked about, and then getting her a little passport, and then we have to go visit family because obviously they want to meet her. Still, while she's cute and tiny, she will always be cute, but maybe not so tiny. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Like, I'm very happy. Like, I'm as happy as I expected, but like I said, just the frustrating thing right now is breastfeeding. But, like, again, it's like I feel very confident that I have, like, all the resources that I need to be able to do that. Oh yeah, and then I have to call to schedule my naval appointment tomorrow so they can check on the baby and make sure everything's good with her. But other than that, like, we're pretty good. And now the baby is making a face like maybe, oh, she's waking up. This is probably a combination of diaper change and feeding, if I had to guess, so I will go do that now. But yeah, overall, excellent experience. Like, I'm super pleased, and I feel like even more confident that I made the right decision because, again, you know, I was super between like whether to do this in the US or do this in Finland, and the whole thing with, you know, doing it in Finland was just like it meant a lot more to me, even though doing it in the US would have meant a lot more to my family. But I was the one who had to go through. I was in labor for 7 hours. 7 hours of, you know, not wanting to be in that situation. The first 4 hours were like pretty and then the last 3 were pretty terrible, and then the last one was exceptionally terrible, but I survived, so we're all good. And now I have cute little baby, and then I just have to take care of the baby, and the end. No, I don't know. I'm sure there will be other things. But yes, so overall, I loved my birth experience in Finland, and I guess, like, also I want this to be out here for, like, I actually was trying to find videos about this when I was looking and trying to decide whether to give birth in Finland or again in the US, and so I found ones from a couple people, like, from different countries. I think one girl was from Slovakia, another one from somewhere in Africa, but I can't remember where exactly. So, you know, that's, again, like, an immigrant experience. Like, also, like, Finnish people have such great English. Obviously, I'm a native English speaker, but still, that, like, I did not feel like there was any sort of issues with the language barrier. Some of the nurses are like, oh, my English is so bad, but, like, honestly, it's not. Like, you know, I could still communicate with them and, like, get across everything that, like, needed to happen. So, yeah, it was fine. But yeah, so just awesome. Like, literally, like, I am so happy, and, like, you know, I was literally so touched by the whole thing that when we did the debrief with the midwife, I was literally like, I was literally like crying. Like, I was just like, yeah, like I was just so happy. Like, I think, like, it was weird because after the birth, I was like, this is the best and worst day of my life all in one. Because the birth was terrible, but then, like, small baby human is the best thing ever. Oh, they are so cute. Okay. Well, anyway, so again, I hope that this video helps at least one person make an educated and informed decision about whether they should pursue giving birth in Finland, because, I mean, a lot of people say it's great, but really it was so great. Like, you know, the care before, the care after, the care during, like, it was just, like, I felt cared about and listened to and respected, and it was, like, it met all of my wildest hopes and dreams and was everything I ever could have wanted and more. But, like, honestly, like, I'm not even just saying that. It's, like, really how I feel. So, yeah. But, yes, now time to continue taking care of small baby human, and, and that's where I'll end it for today. So, thank you again for your interest in this channel about my life in Finland, and we'll keep it going for some time. Then I have to be, like, life in Finland plus small baby child. So, yeah. Alrighty, well... yeah, she needs something, I think. Until next time, bye.